G'day everyone, Russell here, Prime Motion Training. Thanks for joining me for episode number 10 of Let's Talk Police Applications. And we're going to continue on with the theme around selection panel interviews. And I want to address a really awkward situation that can come up from time to time. And that is, what do I do if they ask me a question and I don't have an answer for it? Well, let's discuss that in this episode. Alright, so you find yourself in a selection panel interview and they ask you for an example of something that they need to hear about. Maybe it's an example of where you've shown leadership or you've communicated effectively in a stressful situation. Maybe they want to know about a time when you've shown resilience or you've handled a conflict. All of these sorts of questions can come up, and if you have a mental blank and you're not able to come up with an answer, it can put you in a really uncomfortable position. Now, I think the first thing, of course, is that we need to be well prepared. If you've got a good understanding of what it is that the organisation is looking for, you can assess your own life experiences and slice them up into smaller individual experiences that can be used to address a range of different questions. So, like anything, it always comes down to preparation. But what they're looking for when they ask you different questions is evidence. They're looking for evidence of your ability, your skills, your values, things that you're going to be able to do in policing. And if you don't have those skills or you can't share any examples of where you've shown those particular qualities, it makes it really difficult for the interviewers to tick the box. They're not expecting you to know how to do police work or to understand laws and procedures, but they do want to see that you have similar skills that are required for the job and that you can demonstrate you have those skills by sharing experiences that you've had in your own work, whether that's in your professional context or even in personal situations. You'll be able to find different experiences that you can share that show certain skills and qualities. And maybe resilience as an example. It doesn't necessarily have to be a work-related experience that you share that will still be able to prove you're someone who is resilient. But if you can't find an answer, well, what do we do? Well, firstly, it makes it very difficult for the interviewers to pass you if they can't have any evidence to back up their recommendation. And it's up to us to provide that evidence to them. But if you find yourself getting stuck or maybe just having a mental blank, one of the options could be to ask to defer that question. You might say something like, I'm having a little bit of trouble recalling a specific situation that demonstrates this quality. Would it be okay if we come back to this question a little later? Now, look, they're pretty reasonable. They're not going to say, no, bad luck, you have to give us an answer right now or you fail. I mean, it's not something that you would want to do more than once. You wouldn't want to ask to defer every question that you have trouble with. But you may find that if you do that once, you might find that they'll be a little accommodating. Now, in some states and territories, that it's not an interactive interview. Now, at the time of recording, Queensland Police, for example, tend to provide the questions about 10 minutes before the interview starts, ask you to jot down some notes and deliver your answers in your own time. So if you've had that time to prepare, it's going to be a little more awkward to get to question number 3, for example, and then say, I'm having trouble with this one, can I come back to it later? Because you'll get to choose the order in which you deliver your answers. Now again, that's quite unique to the Queensland Police Service, and depending on when you listen to this, the process of course could change. But most of the states and territories will interview police applicants in a more traditional job interview format. That is, that it's interactive. So again, if you're stuck, you might want to think about asking to defer. Now don't do that just very quickly as though that's your get out of jail free card. You really don't want to do that if you can avoid it, but it may be a way to buy you a little bit of time. Now, the other option, whether they allow you to do that or not, is to think about a similar experience. Now, it may not be exactly what they're looking for, it might not be the exact skills that they're looking for, but it's better to offer something similar than nothing at all. If you were to say to them, oh look, I've never really experienced that, so I don't have an answer, that would come across really poorly. We need to give some evidence of the skills or qualities that they're asking about. So think about a similar experience that might have similar evidence to it. So for example, maybe you've been asked to demonstrate when you've I don't know, maybe shown leadership, or you've utilized your authority in a situation to help calm an angry person. Now you might think, well, I've never really had any authority as such. I mean, my role just doesn't allow me to do that. I'm not a team leader. I'm not a manager. But you might find a similar experience where maybe, for example, and I'm about to share one that I recall one of my members telling me about, who was struggling with this exact question. I don't have any authority. I work on the checkout at Bunnings. And I asked her if she's ever had the situation occur where a customer wants a refund for something. And she said, yes, that happens quite regularly. I said, terrific. Well, are you allowed to give a refund? Are you authorized to give a refund? And she said, yes, I am, up to $100. If it's more than that, I need to speak with the manager. Otherwise, I can issue refunds at my discretion if the value is less than $100. Okay, well, that's exactly what they're looking for. And it feels like a similar situation to what was being asked. But in this case, that's actually a very good match, because this person was able to use their authority to make a decision in a challenging situation, because the customer was pretty upset with their purchase and was ranting and raving and carrying on. So sometimes we actually find that you really do have the evidence that you need. We just can't identify it. We don't see it, even though it's right in front of us. But if you think about similar experiences, you might find there's still pretty good evidence in a similar experience that will provide enough for them to be satisfied that you've got that skill or quality. Now, before you offer up a similar experience, what I would suggest is that you ask for permission first. So you might say, look, I don't specifically recall dealing with that kind of situation, but I do have a very similar situation that happened, or experience that happened to me recently. Would it be okay if I share that experience? Now, look, they're likely to say, look, okay, well, tell us about that situation. And then they'll assess whether or not there's enough evidence that you've provided to tick the box for that particular skill or quality. Now, look, it may be that they may very well say, well, no, that's not quite what we're after. We really need a situation like this. And if they put you in that position, well, then you're going to have to take a similar situation and try and make it fit as best you can for the way in which the question is worded. So it's a tricky situation if you find yourself not able to come up with an answer. You're on the spot. Of course, you'll be nervous. But we have to give them something. If we don't give them at least a similar experience, then it's very difficult for them to say, yes, I'm satisfied this applicant has the ability to communicate under pressure, when you haven't given them any evidence of that. All right, so really quick recap. If you have to, but only if you have to, ask if you can defer the question for later. Now that might buy you some time to think of something, but of course in the meantime, while you're waiting for that time to come around again, you're still answering other questions, so it's going to be pretty challenging. But that might be one way of giving you a little bit of breathing space. The other is to offer a similar experience, and again, I suggest you ask permission to do that before you deliver an answer that's not really what they're after, but might be close enough. If you were to just deliver the answer without asking permission to offer something that's similar, when you get to the end of your answer, you might find they'll say, well, okay, that was fine, but that's not really what we were asking. And that could make a poor impression. It might make them think that you can't listen, you don't understand the question. So if you do offer a similar experience, very important that you ask permission first. All right, and as always, guys, it comes back to that all-important preparation. Know what it is that they're going to ask, and well, how do you know that? Well, you look at the values, you look at the skills and qualities, you look at all of the organisational attributes that they're looking for in applicants. And almost every state and territory offers that kind of information on their website in the recruitment process sort of overview. And once you've looked at those things, it's then a matter of preparing all of your different experiences and matching them to those different qualities that you find on their recruiting website. All right, well, as always, if you need some help to prepare for your selection panel interview, I'm sure you can figure out how to find us. We'd love to have you on the team and help you with your journey. In the meantime, I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to chatting to you again in the next episode.